Welcome to the Breakthrough the Ordinary podcast. Are you ready and committed to your future self? Because if you are, sibling duos Marc and Claudine Chiarmonte will take you on a journey of self-discovery to unlock your highest potential. Through impactful conversations with thought leaders, entrepreneurs, coaches, and healers, we are here to share practical strategies and tools to generate the life you envision. New episodes drop every Monday.
And I'm really happy to have Bill Carmody with us today. He's a TEDx storyteller, an author, a professional certified coach. When he's not supporting his clients and dear friends in their relationships and careers, he delivers powerful week-long trainings for marketing and media companies such as WPP and Publix Media. Bill founded 2 multi-million-dollar companies. He's an award-winning marketing agency, one when he was first married, one after when his second child was born. As an international keynote speaker and former contributing writer for Inc., Bill had the honor and privilege to interview such celebrities as my people too. I love Tony Robbins, Sir Richard Branson, and many others. Bill has had a distinct honor of supporting the public, speaking and in trainings and giving skills to members of the Brexit team, which I'd like to know a little more about. You can contact him. We'll put all his info in the show notes. Great to have you here.
Thanks so much.
Yes.
There's so much more to you even than that. So, we're only touching it, everybody. So
I have lived a very amazing, incredible life, and I'm very lucky and privileged to do so. So yeah, it's wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. I was excited. I mean, I know Bill through coaching, the coaching industry, as well as through positive intelligence, which we'll speak into in a little while. But being such a successful and really, you have a real reach in your industry. Can you share with us what is the principles that guide and ground you as an entrepreneur?
Yeah, it's interesting when I began my career, I was very much a servant leader by default. And the reason I say that is that I had a very interesting childhood. When my parents got divorced at the age of 12, I really kicked into my entrepreneurial spirit. I experienced scarcity. I was really concerned that I would never have enough. And so it really got me into the service industry. So I started with a paper route, and then I had a lawn care business, and I had it with a friend. Another friend was jealous. I had a second lawn care business with that other friend. And then, I was raising money for my congregation. And so it was like all these different things that I was doing, odd jobs and whatnot. But what I found was that what was the secret success at 12 still holds true today, which is do more for others than they can reasonably expect from you. So it wasn't enough just to deliver papers. It was to put that paper exactly on their doormat so it makes it convenient and easy for them to get. It wasn't just about doing the lawn because you were supposed to, but really, how could you make it meticulous so that they're just so happy to have you on their team? And that's exactly how it's continued to prosper year over year, whether it's building websites for companies or whether it was putting together marketing plans. It all came down to how can I really be the best servant leader that I can? So to me, that was value number one. Value number two is integrity, really just making sure that everything I do is in a place of integrity, that I never could ever be questioned, beyond reproach. The ability to have a trust with my team and with my clients. And from that space of trust, to be able to build that feeling of accountability, to be able to be accountable to whatever I'm making commitments to deliver the results that I am committed to having, either for myself, my team, or my clients.
Guideposts to live by.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Very good ones to live by, that's for
Yeah.
sure. So you created 2 multi-million-dollar companies.
Yes.
That's not on everybody's bio, that's for sure. What inspired you? What brought you to create those companies, or your path there? Or how did you come about that?
It's interesting when I didn't set out to build multi-million-dollar companies, and I think that's it to me, the challenge with entrepreneurs today is if your purpose is money driven, money is very elusive. And you're going to struggle a lot with that. What I did is I really set out to do the things we were just talking about in terms of the value centers. Is I wanted to be the easy button. I wanted to be the company that people came to first because I was just easiest to work with. I wanted to figure out what kind of innovation I could create. And so essentially, I think if I set out to say, I'm going to go build a $25 million company, that would have been very hard, because then everything would have been about profits and would have been about I can't invest very much because every dollar I invest and it's going to take away from my bottom line and I have to really focus on my profits. And instead, what I did is I looked at like, well, what could I do beyond any possible expectation for my clients so that like if they realize whatever they're paying me is just nothing compared to the outsized return they're getting from me. And so from that place, just keep going, and always doing more than anyone could reasonably expect from you. That helped make sure that I was the clear, obvious choice, whether it was a campaign or whether it was a project or just I'm in trouble and I need help. Yeah.
I hear that there's like this altruistic aspect, right? Create community, you use the word team. Yeah. And how do you bring consciousness and maybe another level of conversation, right? I hear your values, but right, not everyone you work with has that. So how do you bring that into the space so that you can foster as a we?
Yeah, it's really interesting. Thank you for that question, Claudine. I think one of the things for me was never being afraid to fire a bad client. And part of the thing about it is when you come from a place of scarcity, like every dollar matters and every single, oh my God, what will happen if I let go of this opportunity? Will I ever get another one? When you come from the ocean of abundance and realizing that like there's more business out there than you could possibly ever take on. And when you really come from that perspective, I always looked at who are my low 20% business. So like who are the clients that were dragging us down? Who are the clients that were just like everybody's eyes rolled when they had to work with them? Who are the people that nobody wanted to touch? And every year we cleaned house. So every year we'd be like that bottom 20%, we cut them. And we would literally have a conversation like this. I'm really sorry, but you didn't make the cut. So we're going to have to refer your business elsewhere. And they'd be like, what? And they'd be shocked. Be like, you're my agency. You have to work with me. No, I don't. No, we're at Choice. We're at agency we have agency with our agency, right? So we have the ability to make these choices. And it really sent clear signals to my team that if there's inappropriate behavior from our clients, if our clients are not holding the values we hold, let them go. They're not the right company for us. And I'm not going to force any of my team members to work with clients that don't hold the same values we share. And so we did as best up front to try to determine who is this company we're working with and do they hold the same values that we hold. But ultimately, like no matter how good the interview is, no matter how good the RFP is, no matter how good the process is, ultimately the proof is in the working relationship. And if it really feels like it's a holier than thou type of a attitude, or we're better than you, or we're subservient, like life's too short. So so that empowered my team to really be emboldened to only work for clients they wanted to, and to be very clear about, we don't need this client, let's get rid of it. It also motivated them to replace the revenue, because as a business, we still wanted to grow. So it's like, okay, these are the companies we're going to cut. Now what revenue are we going to get to replace them? And then we got together as a group and like, okay, let's do it. And we would always do that because we were motivated to work with better clients.
Yeah. Well, you walk the walk. I'm hearing too. Right, like
we know like, that. Though.
Here's up here. Yeah, I know that. But, right? But I'm also what a model of leadership and really a structure of business. It's not the typical business model. Well, to be by values.
Right. I think that when you talk about what does success look like, it isn't the typical business model. I think what happens is, what is the typical business model? Increase shareholder value. I think that's the dumbest thing on the planet. It really is. Because if you're focusing on shareholder value, what you're really saying is we put profits above everything else. And the thing is, if that's what you're doing, then profits will become elusive because you're going to be chasing them all the time. But if profits are a happy byproduct of doing the right thing, then you have more of a moral guidepost of what are we up to? What are we trying to accomplish as a company? What's our mission? What's our purpose? What's our values? And if you really live into that, then profits will be all over the place, because essentially people will be throwing their money at you to work with them. I mean, I'll tell you this, as a sidebar, like, more recently, before we'll get into like, working at Positive Intelligence and all that stuff, but more recently, before I switched careers, I started working in my coaching business, and I realized that there was no clear number of what does it cost to hire a coach. So why is it that some people charge $50 an hour and some people charge $1,000 an hour or more? Some people charge $2,000 or $3,000 an hour. What makes the difference? And if you really understand coaching, it's all based on the client anyway. So you're asking powerful questions, you're holding space. And yes, there's a level of mastery over years. But the interesting thing when you think about it is that like the price part of that equation is really it's fake. There's not a real, like, here's exactly what you should pay for this type of work. So if that's out, right? If there's not like here's the Kelly Blue Book of what you should pay for a coach, right? Here's the number. Then what comes out is relationships. What comes out is the value created. What comes out is, well, I'm not going to spend a lot of money unless I feel like I'm getting an outsized return. So if you're charging $1,000 an hour, you better damn well be delivering multiple X that when the actual work is being done, right? And so from that perspective, you start to shift. Like if I'm chasing money, then then everything is optimized for that. But if I'm chasing results and thinking about mission and principles and purpose, it changes the entire conversation.
Thank you for that.
Thank
It's
you.
like infinite. It's the infinite.
It really is.
It's infinite mindset.
Love that book.
Yes. Yeah.
Infinite game connection and all that. So you're very inventive. You're creative. You're always creating new things. And you already said it, but positive intelligence is like the newest thing you're in and creating. Can you explain it? You want to share with us what it is?
So I'd love to tell you a little story because it's really the sort of why I'm here, right? When I was at my first agency, and we were at about a $25 million in annual revenue, and we were doing really well. My two business partners and I were at each other's throats. Like we had such difference of opinion as to what we should do and why we should do it and how we should do it. And it was really, we're at a breaking point. We were ready to just throw in the towel. We were almost over. So I was ready to try anything. And my business partner brought in this gentleman by the name of Shirzad Shamin, and he was part of his YPO forum. And it's like, oh, great. And my eyes literally were rolling. Some guy from YPO is going to come in and save our company. Yay. Right. And it was totally like my heart wasn't in it. I just thought this was just another little check the box type of thing. And it wasn't there. But what happened was I was so impressed. I'd never really worked with a coach before. And when Shirzad came in with the three of us, it was like he completely shifted the way we were looking at the problem. We got underneath the problem, got into the values that were driving all of us and what we actually shared and where we were really truly aligned, and maybe had differences on how we do it, but what we were doing and why we were doing it, we were very aligned. And then we actually had a full company-wide meeting with all 75 employees, and we came together, and I'm literally bawling my eyes out, and I don't care. I don't care that my team's seeing this. Like, I've never been this vulnerable ever before in my life. And it just changed me. It just shifted me. And there was like just such a powerful thing. So after, fast forward, after 25 years in the marketing industry and exiting my second multi-million-dollar marketing agency, I realized, you know what? I really want to be a coach. I want to be that guy, Shirzad. He did such an incredible thing. I want to see what that would be like. And so I started taking this path, and I got my certification, did all the stuff you do to become a coach. But after my first year of coaching, I really wanted to celebrate him. So my mom lives in Santa Rosa, California, and Shirzad's in San Francisco. So back during a holiday, I came back, I think it was like 2018, and I came to Santa Rosa, and I reached out to Shirzad and I said, hey, I asked him if he wanted to have dinner because I wanted to really thank him and tell him how much he meant to me and how much I appreciated Wyatt. And the fact that I was a coach was really because of work he did with me at a very early age. And so we got together, we had dinner, and we had this wonderful conversation about what we're both up to, whatnot. And he was so like, oh, I'm so glad that you followed this profession. He said, but tell me, have you tried my program, this mental fitness program? I'm like, I don't know anything about it, because I'd read his book, but that was about the extent of it. It was a national bestseller, the New York Times bestselling book, Positive Intelligence. But he said, we built this app, and I'd love for you to be my guest and try this out. I'm like, okay, sure. That sounds fun. I'll try it out. I was so hooked. What mental fitness is your ability to face life challenges with a positive rather than a negative mindset. So the concept is very simple. Mental fitness allows you to face life challenges with a positive rather than negative mindset. So, okay, great. But you can say that. And I'd heard all about emotional intelligence, and I'd read about emotional intelligence, but the simplicity of the model that made it so easy to adopt, like a simple PQ rep, and we can talk about that if you want, but all this stuff was just so awesome that I immediately started doing it with my clients. All my coaching clients, I started sharing what I'd learned. It was just, I was on fire with this. It was great. And I realized, like, I felt like I was Napster, Because as I'm doing all this work, like I'm taking his saboteur assessment. I'm not paying him anything for that. I'm using my clients, having my clients take the free saboteur assessment. Then I'm coaching them on what that saboteur assessment, and I'm telling them all the principles that I've learned from both the app and the book and whatnot. And I said, hey, Shirzad, hold on. I appreciate your gift of this thing, but I feel like Napster, and I want you to create this Apple iTunes store. I want people to be able to buy from you as a coach and make this legit. He says, that sounds awesome. Why don't you come do it? I was like, no, I don't think you understand. I have a great coaching practice. I got this great training. I want you to do it. He goes, I know. I need someone to do this with me. So would you do it with me? And so after a long back and forth in 2019, we really rolled up our sleeves and started mapping this whole thing out. And we created this coaching program that would allow coaches to come in and learn mental fitness, but then apply it to their clients. And the thing was, even at that time, I was still a freelancer. I was doing this work, but I just realized like, this was my North Star. If I looked at sort of my purpose and mission, it was to impact millions of lives. And what I was doing on a coaching basis and in my training company, I was impacting hundreds of lives, but it was great. But there was this another level here. And so that enrolled me into, I didn't ever want another job. I was done. I became a coach. I made it. Yay. Like I could do this all. I'd set my own hours, do my own thing. It was great. But suddenly there was this larger mission. And within like in the last, just the time that we've done, the thousands and thousands and thousands of coaches that we've touched, both with our free 100X program and then our advanced training, I mean, it is completely fulfilled what I'm up to and why I'm here. So I'm purpose driven right now. So it's great.
I'm number 69 as a certified positive intelligence coach.
Woo-woo.
Pioneer project.
Congratulations, buddy.
Thank you. And thank Shirzad. I never knew that story. Yeah. So, we've known each other for about 3 years, but you launched in the beginning of COVID. Like I remember signing up for the program, the 10X. It was March 2020, and the following week was quarantine. Yep. It was like, what a time to shift mindset at that particular time. And you're right, the ripple effect, the butterfly effect here is, so everyone I coach with also, even in my corporate coaching job where, we're still talking about the judge, the inner conversations, how, so it is a very, I think conceptually people can get it because we have an inside chatter.
Exactly.
And once they can own that, we can, anticipate and strengthen a muscle in response to it.
Well, and then what's interesting is I'm learning more about the sort of like, I've always looked at my life in a linear way, meaning like, I'm going in one direction. Here's the future. And I don't really spend a lot of time thinking about the past. It's like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And as part of this platform, I realized that my two top saboteurs were controller and hyperachiever. And the reason that mattered to me was I went back and looked at how I ran my company as a CEO and how I was a partner as a chief marketing officer in both companies that I exited. And I realized my controller and my hyperachiever drove me. And so I was, what really resonated with the training that Shirzad does was that basically that I was very successful despite myself. In other words, I railroaded the hell out of my team. Like, I'm not friends with many of the 75 employees that worked for me because, again, I was an ass. I would basically just do things that I thought were important, and I would do it at all cost. And so for me, the problem with that was that I alienated my team, and at the cost of all this other stuff we were doing. So all those values we just talked about, all those wonderful things were great until things got really hot and heavy, and then my controller kicked in. I'm like, we're doing it this way. And that left no room for anyone else to sort of challenge me or talk through it. And the hyperachiever was like, what's next? What's next? What's next? I never celebrated our wins. I was always going to the next thing. So one of the beautiful things about this was I was able to go back and look at sort of like how I played as both a chief marketing officer and a CEO in both of my companies and really start to repair some of the damage that I'd created by being able to own my own part in it, understanding where my saboteurs had run me ragged and sort of the places where my sage really elevated and I could celebrate that for the first time. So like, that's the kind of stuff that really lands for me,
Mm.
Yeah. And I know that we're talking about this model, which may be a little like, oh, if you want to know more, you're going to have to check out, thepositiveintelligence.com. But in terms of how, as an entrepreneur, because now I'm hearing that you're in a role again in Positive Intelligence as a company, and how does this model, Positive Intelligence, help other entrepreneurs or business leaders, applicably at this point?
Yeah, and I'll answer that in two ways. So I'll say selfishly, one of the things that I did. So the other part of that story that I didn't share with you is before I approached Shirzad, when I got my certification as a coach, I realized that most coaches were amazing at coaching. They had this great superpower and pretty terrible at business. And the thing that was for me is my very first training that I created for the coaching industry was called the Millionaire Coaches Marketing Playbook. And I did it for my colleagues. It was version 1.0 was totally free. And I did it just to test the waters to see, could I actually help coaches who are awesome coaches actually create a solid business and a profitable business around it. And so we created this program, and I was really interested in their feedback and the results. But the reason we did it was so we could help coaches who are great at coaching create a very, very successful business. What I did is I looked at the ICF numbers, and the ICF said that the average coach makes about $50,000 a year. And I'm like, that is just disgusting. Like, how is that even a thing? And then I look at people like Rich Litvin and Kendall Summerhawk and, Matt Church, like these are 7-figure coaches. So what's the difference between a $50,000 coach and a multi-million-dollar coach, right? And so that was the whole point. I dissected it and I said, okay, great. I'm going to take their insights combined with my 25 years of marketing, and let's wrap this up together and let's see what we could do. And so I had a lot of great early success with that program. And then when I joined Shirzad, we started building out the coaching program. One of the things that I said was, well, you know what? It's not enough to just understand how to incorporate mental fitness into the coaching business. That's not enough. What I need to be able to do is also teach coaches how to build the business themselves, so they're not $50,000 coaches, that they're 6-7-figure coaches. And this is how we'll do it, by really putting this whole thing together. So I took that Millionaire Coaches Marketing Playbook, combined it with Positive Intelligence mental fitness training, and then we created this really solid roadmap for business. Now I say that selfishly because that's my main goal, is to help coaches become successful and profitable, because I want the coaching profession to not just be this noble act that you do after you're done making money, right? Like you go to your career, you make all your money. Oh, and then I become a coach as part of my retirement gig, which is kind of what it is now. I want to shift it to like, no, I want kids out of college saying, rather than being a doctor or a lawyer, I want to be a coach. Why? Because I can make more money than the doctors and the lawyers, and I can do something that feels of purpose, right? That's my vision. That's what I want. And so this idea of being able to build this really brought it together. But there's another part of this from entrepreneur perspective. When coaches understand the principles of business, there's a whole nother level here. It's no longer just about the powerful open-ended questions they're asking, but they actually know, because they're doing it themselves, what makes a successful business or not. And that will help them support entrepreneurs at an entirely different level, because they'll know what they're talking about. They'll look at the 4 pillars of any successful business. So, what is the niche? What's your irresistible offer? How do you generate appointments? How do you convert appointments? If they know that backwards, forwards, and sideways, then they can poke in at the entrepreneur who's just starting their business and saying, well, who are you marketing to? And most of them are like, well, no, I'm focusing on the product. Here's what the product is. Here's why I'm like, no. Who are you marketing to? Who specifically is your niche? Oh, and then they'll ask that question and they're like, okay, great. Now you know who you're talking to. What's your irresistible offer? How do you make this offer so irresistible they have to take it? Okay, great. Now, how are you going to go talk to that niche? And then how are you going to convert them when they actually are thinking about buying from you, right? So think about if every coach knew how to do that, how much more successful entrepreneurs would be, because they have a coach that not only helps them be the best version of themselves, but actually understands the principles of business and marketing and could actually ramp their business. It's huge.
Very much so. And I always love the fact when we get to the irresistible offer, it's a conversation with a few other coaches right now about really putting, you speak into having a warranty, so to say, like a money back guarantee. If you're not going to see the results, like that's the place we get to stand as coaches about where we are in our assuredness, right? That they can buy in and believe in themselves. And, a lot of people are like, I can't promise they're going to get, it's like, yeah, but that's the only way to get someone to have the skin in the game. Right. We want, people, it's like a nice idea.
Yeah.
I'll see. Exactly. I'll test the water.
Buddy,
jump in.
The thing that's interesting is I get that pushback all the time from coaches. Like, how can you possibly offer a money back guarantee? And what I tell them is, I said, look, your confidence and certainty enrolls the client's confidence and certainty. And so when you say you work with me for 6 months and you play full out, like full play out, everything we do, we just sort of do all this. And at the end of that time, right, if you don't make 10 times the money you're investing in your coaching, I'll give you all your money back after the 6 months. And that's how I built my coaching business. And it was hugely successful simply because people was like, great, I'm going to have like 6 months of free coaching, only to become hugely successful. And they're like, okay. And then you have long-term clients. So now at the end of 6 months, like, why would I stop? I'm making so much, like, this is ridiculous. I got to keep going. Right. So this is part of the whole process, is really helping them understand that when clients believe in themselves, they play differently. And when you as their coach enroll them into playing differently, they can't help but be successful.
Yeah.
You know, you started out saying you did business differently, you know, it wasn't the bottom line. And here's the same thing. You know, this is not the way businesses usually run. People don't go, oh yeah, do this and then you get your money back. But it's a beautiful gift because it's really you are the confidence, and you're stating, look, you're going to grow here.
And ultimately,
you know? And
here's the irony, Mark, they don't want their money back. They want the success. They're not investing in coaching so that they can get a lot of time with me and then like get their money back at the end of 6 months. What they want is they want the outcome that they set up to do in their business. And when they start seeing exactly how to do it and they're doing it day in and day out, then it's a total transformation. And of course, they're super happy. And guess what? Then there's tons of referrals because they can't shut up about you. That's the other best thing about it. It's like when companies really are successful, like, what's your secret? Oh, I got this guy. I got this gal, right? Like this is, I got someone. You got to meet this person.
I got someone. Right? You know, I got some.
My own secret sauce is called Bill.
Right. Exactly.
So you have a life partner, your wife, and how has that impacted your businesses and your life and that?
You know, it's a beautiful thing. I look at one of the biggest challenges from entrepreneurs is their business partners, right? Their work husbands or work wives, right? These are the people that they're spending most of their day with. And what's interesting about that is that if your home life is in trouble, you will have nothing, you can't focus. Like you just, and one of the interesting things why I end up writing the 3 Rules of Marriage, this book, is because I kept looking at, I was coaching my executives and they specifically were struggling at home and it was distracting them from their work. And what I realized is that I had an unfair advantage because, I told you at the beginning, I grew up in a divorced household, right? So my mom and my dad got divorced when I was 12. So what I saw was what marriage doesn't work, right? I got to see all the things. This is what doesn't work. And when I met my wife, Elena, her parents were over 40 years married at the time we met. And they were patting each other on the butt like newlyweds. And I was like, how is that a thing? Like I know people who are married decades, but they're not like that. They're like, they go to their corners. Like, you watch your TiVo, I watch my Roku. We don't talk, right? That's how it is, right? We're roommates.
Roommates.
Right.
Yep.
And I was like, I don't want that. I never want that. And so like, I knew that the model that I grew up with was, I knew what to watch out for. So I could sort of see like, these are my watch items, but I didn't have a formula for how to have a successful partner, like for the long haul. And so I took my father alongside. I mean, this was before I even was engaged to Elena, but when we were just dating, I said to my father-in-law, Richard Neese, I said, what's your secret? Like, how are you two that in love with each other 40 plus years into your marriage? How is that a thing? And he goes, well, we have these 3 rules. I'm like, stop. I got to write them down. Let me get a pen. My God, this is too good. Right. And so he shared the 3 rules of marriage, and I'm happy to share them with you if you want to go into them. But
just for now, on a Kindle, I'm completed. I love it.
Everybody go out and get it. It's amazing.
It's great.
There's many more tips than 3. Let me tell you in this book. Oh my! I'm like, those are the 3 minimum ones. There's so many. I'm like, it's just endless.
Thank you, Mark. Yeah, this was such a pleasure. We published this book when my wife and I celebrate our 20th anniversary together. And when I mean blissful marriage, I mean it. Like, this is not like, oh, we absolutely lived into these principles that my father-in-law gave me. And we're happier today. Like we're about to celebrate our 21st anniversary this year. And we're happier today than we were when we first got engaged. And think about that. How many people can truly say that and mean it? Like a level 5 relationship, absolutely blissful. Like, can't imagine it being any better. And that's where we're at. And it gets better every year. So it's like, awesome. It works.
I actually said to Mark he should have colon it, 3 rules to marriage, colon blissfulness, because that was the embodiment. The word's used a lot, but you really, it's not just a word. You bring it into an experience in the book.
And going back to your first point, Claudine, if you have a blissful marriage at home, then you're not thinking about it at work. Because you're not worried about it. You're not thinking about what, oh my God, I'm going to have to face when I get home from work, and none of that, right? When you have a blissful marriage, it's like there's a part of you that is just enhanced. And so from that perspective, like I am charged up. My batteries are charged with my marriage. My batteries are charged with my wife and the relationship that we have. So none of it is draining. As opposed to when people have challenging relationships or they're in these sort of rocky roads, like they're so drained by that relationship. When they come into work to escape. And when they do that, they're still like in the back of their mind, they're thinking about the problems at home that they're going to have to face later. Like that's very distracting and very frustrating for entrepreneurs. So that was part of this, was like, if you have an understanding of what to do, how do you actually take bold action in this? Then you can literally put this to a place where it's helping you succeed, and it becomes part of your critical success factors, which is what it was for me, right? These businesses that I've exited, they were able to do that because I never had to worry about my relationship with my wife.
Yeah, if I could go just a little, my own curiosity here. So, when I think of the life domains and the life wheel, let's just say that we all have the quadrants. There is, when we're going to automate an area, right? So others are in this maintenance and we're growing some others, but there still gets to be an intention and attention to that relationship domain. Now, I know you also have 2 children, but let's just talk about the marriage. So where does that intentionality come when you put a lot of, it's a heartbeat. Your career domain is sometimes a little wider, right? And you have these big health goals, right? An Ironman, achiever. So where do you stick to that? Like, how do you pay that attention and attention to the marriage?
So the interesting thing for me is that when I'm with my wife, I'm fully there. I'm fully present. So there's no multitasking, meaning I'm not checking my text messages. I'm not checking email. I'm not taking phone calls. It's like really like the house has to be burning down for me to be distracted from this relationship, right? So full presence. And I think that's one of the things that so many people just crave. You're in a relationship where you are multitasking. You're watching television or you're reading a book, or like we're together, but we're not really together, right? It's just sort of like we're physically present, but we're not like emotionally present. And I think one of the things that's so powerful is that when you have a blissful relationship, you just want to be in it. You want to be in that relationship. You want to enhance it and go. So part of this is like, we get to celebrate our wins together. Like every time. So before Positive Intelligence, when I was doing my coaching practice, like I was still in the house downstairs doing my own coaching thing, and she was upstairs doing her thing. And I would literally like enroll a client, and the number one thing I wanted to do is go celebrate with her. So I'd run upstairs like, I got another one. It was great. This is so great. Right. And part of this was that it was better when I got to celebrate with her. That was more meaningful to me, that I got to celebrate with her, than actually getting the client. Like the client part was great. It was fun, but that was a business deal. This, me celebrating with my wife about my success, like I knew she authentically cared about my continuous growth, and we got to celebrate together. And that was a great way to sort of break up my day, to really have this partner always in my corner. And that's exactly what I have. Like, if I'm having a bummed out day, like I know she's got my back. I know she's like, what can I do? How can I help? Very different than, well, I got problems too. And let me tell you, let me just unload. You've been at work all day. Let me tell you all the things I've been dealing with. Rah! Or my job is terrible. Rah! Right? It's not how it is. We're charging each other up. We're lighting each other up. We're supporting each other in each step. And that makes life so much more cool.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. I can feel that.
Yeah. I mean, energy that you bring together and make more, it creates more when you're really in it. So I was thinking, because I want people to get this book, because I think there's so many tips in this book and everything.
Thank you.
And could you, though, give our listeners some tips in any relationship? What are some ideas or tips that they can use?
I'll tell you, like you said at the beginning, there's so much more in this book than just the 3 rules. If you're okay with it, I'd love to just give them the 3 rules so they have them and they can understand how to apply them. And then the actual book is about the application. It's not like this information gives you the foundation, but it's the living into the principles that matters, not just knowing it. So it's knowing the path versus walking the path, right? So for me, if you look at this, the first rule is it's more important to say, I appreciate you than I love you. And to me, that one blew my head off, because when my father-in-law told me this, I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. Isn't love more powerful than appreciation? It doesn't make any sense to me. Why is that a thing? But appreciation is specific. It is, I really appreciate that you washed the dishes. I appreciate that you took out the garbage. And my father-in-law's comment there was, you're going to spend a lot more time washing dishes than having sex. So how can you make those things fun? You know what I mean? So it's like, it was great. It was so on point. I'm like, that's great. And the idea of appreciation is, it really lands, because your partner can be, you and your partner can be fighting and you say, I love you. Right. And you don't mean it. You just like, it's what you're supposed to say. And it doesn't land for the other person. It's like, we're just saying the words, but appreciation is specific. Hey, I really appreciate how hard you're working for us. I really appreciate when you spend time with the kids and you're changing diapers, even though like, I know what you're doing in your business and you're not above doing all the other house chores that are out there. Right. So like that appreciation really lands for both parties. So that was great. And that appreciation, I think, goes into every aspect of what we're up to in our relationship. So for me, that was such a powerful one right off the bat.
Yeah. I honestly, I have been using it. I don't even know if you noticed. Like I say, I appreciate because I realize it brings you in this moment too. I remember, I think Abraham Hicks talked about that gratitude is somehow from the past. Yes. Where appreciation is right here.
Yes, it's the now.
Gratitude is saying there was something different in the past, or I'm grateful, but it has an element but appreciation is this moment. So you have to be present here. Like I'm giving you appreciation right here.
Absolutely.
I've been doing it all the time. I love it.
I
love
tell you,
saying
I
it.
notice it. So thank you. Yes, he's been acknowledging me. I've been here for about a week.
Because there's something more than just saying, oh, thank you for doing that. I don't know. I feel like it grounds you.
Yeah.
Something about that grounds you. And I got it from your book. Like, I knew it all the time, but your book it grounds you right into that appreciation.
Well, and the thing is, you can't authentically appreciate someone without gratitude. And you can't appreciate someone without presence, because you won't notice. You won't notice that the trash was, that the dish fairy came or that the trash fairy came. Like you won't notice those things if you don't care and you're not present. But when you are present, you're like, wow, I know that I meant to do my dishes this morning, but I had to run off to this call. And when I came back, the dish went away. You're like, okay, so I want to really acknowledge my wife for doing that thing, because it wasn't her job. And I appreciate you did it anyway. Right. And that's sort of part of what that is. And then that's gratitude in my heart for real, appreciation of a specific act. And it's like in the moment. So you're absolutely right, Mark. It's perfect.
Yeah. I'll just give you a little example. My sister's up visiting, and I'm always doing the laundry. I'm a single dad at the moment, and it's like she's doing the laundry, and it means so much to, like, just the idea that, oh my God, I don't have to worry about laundry today. And it's a simple, but I am so and I let her know like a couple of, it's just nice. It's just appreciate it so much. So, anyway,
and Claudine, you feel that when he says that, don't you know?
Oh yeah. Yes. It's not like, yeah, thank you. It's not, no, like that, I should say it, quote unquote. No, it's felt an experience. That's my experience. Like I can feel it. Like it's a jolt into the heart space, like little jolt charge.
So good.
I'm glad you noticed.
Well, so then the next thing was, so that's that in of itself is gold. That'll take the relationships to the next level just on that one. But then he went further and he said, don't keep score. That was the second rule. Like, don't keep score. I'm like, well, okay, so what, like, I get it. Because what happens when you keep score is you start fighting about the past, not the present. So again, if you think about the theme here, appreciation is presence. If you're going to have a dispute or an argument or a quarrel or whatever it is, if you are fully present, you're talking about the moment. Here's what's happening as it's happening. When you keep score, you're going into the past and you're basically trying to win. And so that becomes the question. In the moment when you are in a disagreement, is your objective to make the relationship better, or is your objective to win? And it's really a powerful question, because you think about that, how many times in relationships we're here to win. I get to be right or righteous, right? Like, I'm right, you're wrong, and let's just make sure that the scorecard is filled out that way. You know what I mean? So when you don't keep score, all that's gone. And what's left is what's present in the moment. Like, hey, it really bothered me that you said this over here. Oh God, and then to me, it's like, what am I going to do with that? Like, the woman of my dreams just told me that I upset her. Like, oh my God, what can I do to fix it? Like, I really want that. And I want to change it. And again, she's not dragging up the past. Like, you always do that. This time. And she's like, here's the 5 examples of how you do this to me. And it's terrible. No, it's like, this happened. And I would love for that not to happen. Got it. That's a request. I can grant that request. Agreed. Yes, please help me make sure that I remember that so that I don't do that again. And it's real. Like, I want this to be better.
I think our doggie liked the story too. She's coming up for love. She's like, oh, present, be with me. We do challenges for our.
Wait, is there one more?
Yeah, that's okay.
Oh, I know. I thought I'm not cutting it off. No. Oh, you go ahead.
I apologize.
No, I just thought we do challenges for our listeners, and this is a great thing. The appreciation. I wanted to say it before and I didn't. So, to our listeners, the challenge is go out and any relationship you're in, really sit and be present and give appreciation. Notice what they're doing. Notice what they have done that you haven't said anything. And really, face-to-face, eye-to-eye, heartfelt, really give them appreciation of whatever you see or have experienced. You can put it on Instagram, all our social media, Facebook, and share who you did it with, what you did. We'll share ours too. We do it too. We're in the challenge. So,
and Mark,
I just love that.
And I would also say, how did they feel when they did it? Because here's the other thing too, is that what you give, you also receive. So when I tell you how much I appreciate you, I also get filled up with gratitude. So even if they're just noticing when I appreciate someone and I'm fully present to what they did and how much I really, truly appreciate it, what happens in your own heart? What happens in your own body?
Yeah, and who knows how it could shift the relationship. One notice. But
so put that on our social media at the BTO Podcast, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and tell us who and what was your experience. Let's hear about it. Thank you.
Okay, the third rule. Come on, bring it on.
The third rule is never go to bed angry. And the reason that came from Phyllis Diller, right? Stay up and fight, right? That whole thing. But my father-in-law was very serious when he said it. He said, here's the thing, is that when you adhere to the previous rule where you're not allowed to keep score, then you basically have 24 hours to deal with whatever's in the space, because when you're ready to hit the pillow, you got to make a very conscious decision. Are we going to stay up and deal with this, or am I really going to let it go? Because if you're going to not break the second rule of not keeping score, well, then guess what? Like, from that place, you have to let it go and really mean it. Like, I am releasing this. It's not worth the fight. I'm just not, and I don't get to bring it up again. So I'm good with it. Or it is like, this really does bother me. And I'm going to say, before we go to bed, I want to tell you this really hurt me today. And I really want you to know it, because I'm here and committed to letting it go, but I need you to know what happened. And then basically it becomes very specific. It's like, okay, great. I'm glad I'm glad you told me that, and so it's increasing your communication. It's increasing your effectiveness, but the next day you start fresh. Now imagine that no matter how bad things get, if every day you started fresh, you weren't able to keep score, every day was a new day, how much better would your relationships be?
Your whole relationships, your life, everything.
Yeah. With yourself and others. Yeah. Exactly. Wow. I really have appreciated the book. Really, it's a great quick read, and I love the I'm going to use the word contrast of how you write, because you're also a storyteller, you're a TED talker, and that your TED talk was on Storytell, and your wife. And interestingly, because she's very practical and pragmatic, which often we associate with the man, and I'm not saying always, right? The stereotype. And you are much more this flowing, and it was like, when I got to Elena's part, I was like, oh, okay, so her writing style is so different from Bill's.
Well, so she pushed back on, we don't need a book. There are 3 rules. This should be an article, like the 1,000 words and we're done. We're out. And really what was
Yeah.
funny about that was the first version of the book, like I'm all flowing, just like you said, I'm writing all these stories, these great, wonderful tidbits about our relationships and everything I've learned about relationships with other workshops and integrating all this work and like all my training and all my coaching, like all of it, right? She's also a coach. And she's like, here's what I want to write. And it was literally 1,000 words, the first version. I'm like, this is all I want to say. I have nothing more to say. And I'm like, honey, it's a book. It's not an article. Like we signed up, we agreed we're going to write a book. Come on. So we got to, we worked to massage it, whatever. But it was to your point. It was like, she just wants to get right to the heart of it. And that's great. Like that's her style. That's what she's up to. Yeah.
Yeah. No, it was great.
Great.
I like to transition for a moment and do some quick fire
Please
questions.
do it.
And so we just ask you to give also the quick fire question answer back. And the first one I ask you is, what does God mean to you, Bill?
God to me is not a person or a thing. It is the interconnected oneness of all of us. The way I envisioned this was if I were, these are supposed to be quick answers. I'm sorry. Do you want me to?
No, that's you. That's okay.
All right. Because that is the quick answer. But the thing that's interesting is when I think about the interconnected oneness of the planet, what I think about is if I were God and I wanted to improve myself. Well, if I'm infinite, there's no beginning, no end, and I know all these things, what would I have to do? I'd have to create constraints. And so the way I look at it is that our souls are absolutely a part of God, and all the souls connected is God. But the idea there is that God isn't a person and not an other. God is me. Like you are God, I am God, and our connection together is the oneness that we all want to see on the planet. But also when we die, that spirituality energy can either be created or destroyed. That's where it goes. Like our spirits are interconnected. And I do believe in the interconnected web of existence. And I believe that every person that comes into my life, I've played this role before in a different capacity. So Claudine, you and I might have been siblings in a past life, right? I have no idea, but we have a spiritual contract, right? And so that connectedness is what matters to me.
Yeah, thank you.
Amazing. So what makes you feel vulnerable and how do you handle it?
Yeah, to me, vulnerability is not a thing to handle. Vulnerability is the true essence of a person. And I think, when I am not vulnerable is when I have my embattled shield up and I'm trying to put on a brave face, or I'm wearing a mask, or I am trying to portray something that I'm not. To me, true vulnerability is my essence. When you see me my most vulnerable, it's because I'm not trying to get something from you. I'm not trying to convince you of something. I am. And that's full stop, right? I am, period. That's vulnerability to me. And I'm willing to show you who I am, despite whatever risk or cost might be associated with it.
Beautiful answer.
Yes. So Bill, what are the habits or routines, I'm going to use that word, that you are committed to each day to have you show up as Bill we know?
Yeah, thank you. They've changed over the years. I would say that these days it's really a connectedness to my purpose, and that shows up in a couple different ways. I do my own PQ reps, which is part of the mental fitness Positive Intelligence app, and that helps me really stay in sage. And I'm constantly monitoring throughout the day. Am I in sage? So when I start to feel myself lose it and I start to experience amygdala hijack or things like that, I'm bringing myself back through PQ reps. So that's a foundational part of what I do every day now. The other thing is that when I look at my rituals, I get up in the morning and I actually have a 5-year journal. And this came from another author that I appreciated very much talking about this. But what was cool about it was a 5-year journal. I never used to journal regularly because I always felt that I had to write a lot. But the beautiful thing about a 5-year journal is you literally only have space for about 3 or 4 sentences. But what happens is that you're writing in those pages and you come back. And so in year 2, you're looking at what you wrote on that day in year 1, and you're starting to see patterns, and you're starting to see like those differences. So one of my rituals is every day to write a few sentences in my 5-year journal. And then another ritual that I have is just my own gratitude for my family. So I always make sure before I start my day that I hug my kids and I hug my wife. I tell them how much I love and appreciate them. And I fill up the gratitude in my heart. And then from that perspective, I always feel like I'm excited to go to work because I'm doing this for a reason. I'm doing this so I can be better, so I can sort of demonstrate the love and connection that I want to see in my family, and that there's this other outside connection. And then the rest of the rituals are like exercise based. So like I'm testing for my 5th degree black belt. So I've been doing martial arts for 25 plus years. And what's exciting for me in this is that the ability to actually like live into the principles of Subak Do Mudap Kwan, which is what I study. And those specifically are about not knowing how to fight or defend myself, but really this principle of Pyongyang, which is Korean for peaceful confidence. So the ability to really know that I can handle any situation that shows up, whether it's a physical confrontation or just an emotional one. I know that I've got what it takes.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Well, this answer might have so many answers to it, but what's your superpower?
What's my superpower? You know, I think when I think about what I do best, it is very much helping the people that I'm surrounded with be the best version of themselves. And I'm doing that by giving them permission. And what I mean by giving permission is by being the best version of myself, I find that it's very enrolling to others to do the same. And when I allow my light to shine brightly, it encourages others to shine their light brightly. And so I think for me, it's my belief in the people around me, the belief in my family, my kids, my friends, my community, my congregation, all of those things, like every person that I'm interacting with, I really see like what's the best version of who they are and what they're up to. And I really do my best to try to draw that out and encourage them to really step into their power. Because I can tell you that my superpower has been stepping into my power and then enrolling others to do the same has made me unstoppable, right? That's my nickname. Right?
That's sure.
And that's why I call it myself unstoppable, because it really, when I really step into my full power, that's who I am.
I like that one.
I've definitely experienced you that way.
Yes, yes.
There's no doubt.
And as we, bring this podcast interview to a close, and I would love it to go on, honestly, is there any wisdom that you would have for entrepreneurs to continue to be creative, conscious leaders?
Yeah. The interesting thing to me about being a creative, conscious leader is the triple P, which we're hearing more and more about these days. But the idea is, rather than being an entrepreneur focusing only on the first P, which is profits, if you focus on the people and you focus on the planet, you will by default be a conscious leader. Because if you focus on your people, then you're constantly looking at how are you developing them, even if that means they need to leave in the organization. Like the best use of their talents is not in your organization. Are you brave enough to support them in their self-actualization, even if it means they have to leave your company? So really being focused on your people means helping them be the best version of themselves. The planet is, what impact are we having? Are we making the planet better or worse by what we're doing? So if I'm polluting the planet, I'm taking all the resources, I'm destroying the planet, then I'm really that's not one of my 3 Ps, right? But if I'm balancing profits with also enhancing self-actualization of my people and in making the planet better in some meaningful way, that triple P will absolutely show the guiding light of how to be a conscious leader.
Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Any last words that you would like to offer?
Yeah, I've obviously shifted because I had this perfect life where I essentially was quasi-retired, as a coach and a trainer, and these things were awesome and I loved it. And I decided to join Positive Intelligence and Shirzad Shamin. One of the things that I will say is that I don't know how many coaches are listening to the podcast specifically, but I assume because both 2 of you are fabulous coaches, other coaches will be following in your footsteps. But I would say I really urge any coach who's interested in this work to get the free, this is a $995 program that we give free to coaches. And that's because of all the things we've been talking about. I would really encourage them to go to positiveintelligence.com/100x so that they can experience mental fitness training for themselves, putting their own oxygen mask on first, so that then they can eventually help their clients. And of course, if they want to get the first few chapters of the 3 Rules of Marriage, 3rulesofmarriage.com, would love to see some of the content and stuff that's there if it really helps them in the workbook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Go get it.
It is. Yes.
It's worth it.
Yeah. Thank you, Bill. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being a contribution and being a conscious leader.
Thank you.
Amazing, man. Thank you.
Very much so. And for your time today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for making
And
it.
thanks.
Being here.
Yeah.
Yes. So I want to thank everyone for listening to the Breakthrough the Ordinary podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode and a deep dive into the conscious leader that Bill is and the tools and wisdom that he shared with us to live your extraordinary life. If you'd like to support this podcast, please leave a rating and share it with others on our social media platform. You can catch our latest by following us at the PTO Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Thank you, and see you in the next episode.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.